Governor Dick Lamm joins me on the show for the very first time ever. Governor, good morning. Thank you so much for making time for us. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Let's just jump right in. What do you see as the biggest differences between the way politics are operating in Colorado today versus when you were governor of Colorado? And I should note that Dick Lamm also served for quite a long time in the state legislature, so he has that perspective as well.
Well, let me go back to those days. In 1967, I was elected to the Colorado legislature, and the Republicans controlled the governorship, the House, and the Senate. And the atmosphere was very cordial, and it was a lot of working together, and there was none of this fierce, do or die partisanship. I was able to get some major pieces of legislation through. Nobody put me down as a minority party and thus not to be listened to. I was very pleased. John Love was an immensely decent and fair person. And then I don't know, right before I started running for governor, of course, then I became a target. But it wasn't only me. It was when what was called the House Crazies took over. Ann Gorsuch and Frank DeFilippo and David Durham, and it was it just changed. There's something about the Republican Party in the early 70s that just became a whole different party.
So. And I wasn't in Colorado in the early 70s, so I take your word for that. The Republican Party changed a lot then. And I would say also at a national level, there's certainly an argument to be made that maybe 70s, early 80s, the Republican Party moved a bit to the right and changed. But I think, and would you agree that we have seen similar kinds of moves now by the Democrats at the national and state level becoming a lot less cordial, a lot less bipartisan, and a lot further to the left?
Yeah, well, I think both parties are ever evolving, but I don't agree that it's the same thing. I think that what I saw is all of a sudden the Republican Party started throwing out its moderates. This wonderful woman, Martha Ezzard, who was John Love's press secretary and was in the Senate, and one time after another you can look up and you can see the right wing of the Republican Party pushing out the moderates. The Democrats have never done that.
That's interesting because, again, I see the Democrats doing that now. That's how but you're a lifelong Democrat, I think. Maybe you were independent part of some of the time and thought about, and you did, in fact, begin a presidential campaign as an independent, correct?
Yes. I don't think either political party has the answer to America's problems. I think that they're both compromised by special interests and special interest money. I'm appalled that this great nation doesn't have a more honest political system.
Yeah, I'm kind of appalled by that, too. And I don't know if you had a chance to hear the show 15 minutes ago, but we got a call from Howard Schultz, the founder and CEO of Starbucks for so many years, who's running for president, who made some fairly similar comments to what you're making. On a very practical note, right now we're seeing the Democrats who have state control of the entirety of state government aggressively pushing through nearly the entire liberal wish list as fast as they can. Well, first of all, do you agree that that's what's happening? Let's start with that. Do you agree the Democrats right now are very aggressively pushing their agenda through the state legislature?
I don't know. I don't know specifically. I mean, I know they're pushing oil and gas regulation, and I certainly agree with them on that. Give me some other examples.
National popular vote, so giving Colorado's electoral votes to the winner, whoever wins the national popular vote, even if that person loses Colorado. They've already done that, and Jared has already signed it. They're looking to eliminate the death penalty, and we can talk about that more. They're looking to keep Tabor refunds forever. And they're looking to do very aggressive climate stuff. So it's not so much the details, but it's just they're doing it as fast as they can. Republicans even had to take them to court to make them abide by the state constitution and read bills, right?
I read that. Yeah. No, I don't. It really. I think that that the Democrats took control and they're making good use of their time.
Okay, so that's my question for you. Do you think that if you have full control, that it's just good politics, or it's just you would say, well, this is what if they didn't want me to do all this, they wouldn't have given us full control. So do you think that doing as much as you can, as fast as you can, is good politics? And do you think it's ethical?
It's certainly not my style. I mean, it's certainly my style. But I've almost given up. I mean, those glorious days when I first entered the legislature and the whole legislature worked together, I don't know whether those days will ever come back again. A couple of issues. Abortion is one of them. Abortion. The Republican Party immediately, any pro-choice Republicans were pushed out of office. And they pushed the Republican Party so far to the right. And those people came in, and they, it was take no prisoners. And so I think that Democrats, if they're moving too fast, I think they're justified in the sense that they don't exactly have willing partners to work with up there.
I think they would make the same argument that you just made. But I would say that the Democratic Party has pushed out its pro-life Democrats just as much as the Republican Party has pushed out pro-choice Republicans.
Listen, I was a chief sponsor of that liberalized legislation. That what were there, 2 pro-life Democrats? I mean, but there was an absolute disaster within the Republican Party as they had to take on a loyalty oath to the Right to Life movement to retain their seats. So yes, we did push out a couple of pro-life Democrats, but it was small, and abortion now has become a national right, and the Democratic Party led the way on that, and I'm proud of them.
And just so you know, I'm mostly pro-choice. I can live with the idea of some restrictions on, third trimester abortions and things like that. I'm not a Christian conservative. I'm neither Christian nor conservative, actually. Right? I'm a libertarian Jew. Okay, so I guess I'm in this weird middle place on abortion that maybe a lot of Americans are, but not the loudest Americans. Right?
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
So, do you think that it is possible for Democrats to go too far when they say we will not support? I mean, there was this thing you probably heard about in Virginia where a couple of politicians, including the governor, basically made arguments for abortion up to the day before birth, up to the moment of birth. Do you think that, just politically speaking, and maybe you could answer this as an ethical or moral question as well, isn't that too far?
I think it is too far. I think that I think by the time you get to the 3rd trimester, however, abortion is very rare, and only if it was, the mother's life was in danger or there was a terribly deformed fetus. And I think that those are tragic cases, and it's hard. Those are hard law.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because I say so often on this show that difficult cases or difficult stories, often they should not be the basis of making law. They usually lead to bad law. So true.
But overall, I see no public policy reason to force unwilling women to have unwanted children. I think that the more that I look at society, the more that I see the stability of the family, stability of marriages is just an incredibly leading indicator to a peaceful future.
Multiple listeners have, over the past couple of years, actually, emailed me a speech or a link to a speech that you gave a while back on the perils of multiculturalism, this has gotten enough attention online that Snopes has it now, and they say, yes, Dick Lamm really did give this speech. And I don't really need to get into all the details of it, but it basically was saying we need to be a little careful if we want to preserve the United States of America. We don't want to go too far down, the road of multilingualism or that kind of thing. And my question for you is not so much on the details of that policy, but orthodoxy now, maybe in both political parties, but I'd like you to maybe try to address it within your own party. How much of an issue is it that if you gave a speech like that now and you were a candidate running for something, you'd be done as a Democrat?
I think that's right. I definitely think that's right. But, I was an unconventional candidate. I was in politics to fight for ideas. I mean, I still fight for ideas. I think, for instance, on the one you just mentioned, it's a blessing for an individual to be bilingual, but it's a curse for a society to be bilingual. Look at Belgium; they can't even form a government after. You look at various places around the world. Malaysia. Immanuel Kant said, "Language and religion are the great dividers," and certainly language is a terrible divider. We got to be able to talk to each other.
Right. And Quebec, which so often wants to secede.
Yes, of course. That's the best example. Is right in my backyard. Yes, absolutely. I don't want to grow a Hispanic Quebec, and I think that could be. We're sort of partly on that way.
So I'm with you. We're partly on that way, but I want to bring it back to the political question. If Dick Lamm were running for office right now, just the fact that this is out there on the internet that you said it, much less that you said it again now on my show, many people Democrats would say you're disqualified. And again, taking it away from the specifics of the issue we're just talking about, what do you make of the idea that just having the not currently politically acceptable view on issue A could disqualify a person? I find it troubling.
Ross, I won the governorship because I was heretical. I was the chief sponsor of the nation's first liberalized abortion law, and I led the fight against the Olympics. A lot of people thought that was incredibly unpatriotic. I won because I fought for things, and people agreed with them. So I don't know. I would find some issues that I think that the Democrats would agree with me on, and I would try to run with those.
See, I think you're overly optimistic that a candidate for either party could abandon whatever the orthodoxy of the moment is. I think both sides, the actual political apparati, are much less tolerant than they ever were. And I don't think you could win today just because of that one speech. I think you would be tossed out. I
think you're probably correct, Ross. But that speech was how I saw the. I mean, I think, I'm in the wonderful position that I have a certain platform, and I can continue to articulate what I believe in. And I do believe that this, people talk about celebrate diversity. Well, I honor diversity, but I celebrate togetherness. I think that America's going to go through some tough economic times. I think when we have trillion-dollar deficits as far as the eye can see, one of the most irresponsible public policies I can imagine, like we don't understand economic history, I think that we got to find ways that we can keep America together.
I've got about 2 minutes left. If you were to combine the things that you just said in one presidential candidate, and you have been a presidential candidate, someone who says, I'm not for all the extremes of diversity, but I'm very pro-choice, and we got you are putting together issues in a way that doesn't fit into either political party right now, and that would mean you would have to run again, or someone like you would have to run as a third-party candidate. We just actually had Howard Schultz on the show, who is a potentially viable third-party candidate for president. What do you see as a possible role for a third-party or independent candidate for president right now, or is it structurally impossible?
I believe it's structurally impossible, and I'm very well aware that I might be hypocritical here because I did. It seemed to me back in 94, 96 that we needed a third political party that neither political party had, and so we tried to put together. We had an ideal candidate. We thought we did. He did that. But John McCain and Bob Kerrey from Nebraska, both Medal of Honor winners, and we thought that there would be oomph that we could start a socially liberal, economically conservative political party. We didn't get it done.
Is that how you think of yourself, socially liberal and economically conservative?
You bet. I think that, the idea that a nation can borrow its way to greatness is insanity. At some point the piper has to be paid. I was trained, my first profession was as a certified public accountant.
Mm-hmm.
Books have to ultimately be balanced. And I think that the idea that, that if we pass tax relief without cutting spending, we're not cutting taxes. We're just passing them off to our kids. I think my generation has been guilty of absolutely generational malpractice. We have put such burdens on our children that they'll never get out of it.
I think not only do I think you're right, but I think that the majority of America would share your views, would share their description of themselves, the way you describe yourself, and in fact, the way I describe myself, which is to say economically conservative, pro-Constitution, but socially liberal, which is to say live and let live, or basically libertarian. Dick Lamm, former governor, former state legislator, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. We got to leave it there. I do hope you will be willing to join us again one day.
My pleasure. Good talking to you.
Thank you. You too.